That is one of the best questions I've ever been
really?
asked. Yes.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the challenges they're experiencing is not because they aren't good enough, but it's because they don't have a strategy. Losing a job is a temporary situation, right? Your worth is a permanent situation. So a temporary situation does not have the power to affect something that is permanent unless you allow it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Confidence and Caitlyn podcast. As always, it's your girl, Tiwalola, and I am here to wake you up to your worth so you can master your mind, believe in yourself, and show up in the world. I know you are ambitious. I know you have big dreams, but sometimes your confidence doesn't quite match the size of your ambitious goals. And I am here to help you level up your confidence so you can be anyone that you want to be in the world, okay? Welcome to today's episode, which is the Confidence Hotline. And you've sent in your dilemmas, you've sent in your questions, and I am joined by an amazing, also confidence guru, personal finance girly, Caitlyn Kumi, and she is going to help me answer some of these juicy dilemmas. Okay, so welcome, Caitlyn, to the Confident and Killing It podcast.
Thank you, Tiwa. I am so excited to be here. I know we've talked about this before,
I
but
know.
your podcast got me through the pandemic, inspired me to become a TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn girly just helped me grow Miss Empower. So I'm just so happy that I could make this trip.
Yes, it's been so great watching you on your journey, growing, and you've been talking about the Confident and Killing It podcast for years. I think you are probably the person that has tagged me the most on social media.
God.
Love this episode, recommending the podcast. So I'm so glad to actually have you on here. And I think it's a testament to the power of confidence and to the power of investing in yourself, right? You know, the podcast was a part of your journey and you've come so far in the last 5 years. So before we go into today's dilemmas, let's just talk a bit about your journey and kind of where your confidence journey started and where you were 5 years ago and where you are today.
Oh, I love this question. And I think it's beautiful too that your podcast, or at least I discovered your podcast around 2020. It was a time during the pandemic where I just needed that confidence boost. And I think I am a little bit of a words of affirmation girly.
Fair enough.
And
No
I'm
shame
always,
to that.
I don't know if I learned it from your podcast or just out and about, but I think it's really important to practice your love languages on yourself.
Oh,
so
100%.
During the time of the pandemic, I was still in undergrad or university and just trying to figure out my next steps. I decided to launch Miss Empower, which is my women's community and digital media company. And I just was like, how am I going to get there? Nobody in my family really owned a business. I had this traditional corporate path, and I was kind of doing the third door approach where it's I'm doing the traditional path, but I'm doing it on my own terms. And I think just having your podcast, getting more in touch with my faith as well throughout the years has just really grounded me, helped me overcome that fear of failure and learning how to do it scared. So I think that has really been instrumental in my journey, just having those systems in place. So
Amazing.
Again, just knowing that the power of the tongue, the words you tell yourself. And one of my favorite things from your podcast is when you start having that insecurity and doubt is asking yourself who told you that? And that has been the biggest game changer for me.
Who said that?
And I think when you start a business, when you put yourself out there on social, you really have to learn how to tune out the outside noise. And kind of Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, I have my own alter ego. She doesn't have a name yet, but that's how I feel when I go on social, when I'm putting myself out there, because I have a forward facing business where, I have to be out there, I have to be social, but naturally I'm quite reserved and I like to keep to myself for the most part. So I think a lot of it is just doing it scared and putting systems in place, figuring out how to teach yourself to work through that. And for me, it's often the words I tell myself, the people I surround myself with to just overcome that fear of failure and build that confidence. And I feel build that confidence through trying and doing it scared.
Absolutely. I'm practicing. And I think, there's so many key lessons here from your story, from nobody in your family had done it. And for people, they would be like, oh, so can I do it? You know, but it's important that even if you didn't have immediate role models in that have been where you want to go, you broadened your horizon, right? And you found other women in the media space who were kind of doing what you wanted to do, and you really locked in on that. So for anyone, you know, who has a business idea or who's starting out and you're like, no one in my family has done this before, it doesn't matter. Somebody out there in the world is doing what you want to do. So your mentor doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that you know. Your mentor can be someone online through their books, through their podcasts, you know?
Yeah.
Like we didn't know each other until like a couple years in after you had been listening to the podcast, right? So I really love that you didn't let that be a reason for you not to go ahead and, you know, start Miss Empower Her and really like follow all your different passion projects as well. So, and then you also mentioned, you know, doing it afraid, and confidence just comes from practice. Right? Because when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I was just like, okay, I have a message I want to share with the world. Let me just start making videos. And then I was like, okay, the videos are working. Let me put on an event. And then it was like, oh, okay, I have a community. Okay, let me write a book. Oh, let me start a podcast. And it was like, the more steps you take, the clearer the path becomes, and the more confident you feel to take more action.
Yeah. And I also think it comes from like trusting yourself. And again, for me, I've become like more faith oriented, but for those who might not be as faith oriented, like having that like digital mentor, like that voice of reason. And I think also being okay with like your path looking different based on your situations or your circumstances. Like I think it's really important to do the best you can with what you've got, the resources you have, the hand you've been dealt. Like I've had opportunities to write a book, but I knew I was like, I still need to do some growth. I still need to do some more development for this to be impactful. And I think also too, like confidence comes from being able to say no, being able to prioritize so you can get to that next level as well.
Gosh, yeah. And that's something I want to talk to you about, which is we've been talking about, well, my word for 2025 was bold. Okay. And I thought it was because I was in my comfort zone and I needed to do more and show up more and do bigger events and make everything bigger. Because to me, bold means yes and more. And actually, I realized at the beginning of summer that my bold move was going to be to disappear, was going to be to start saying no when I used to say yes, and to start saying no and to disappear and redefine boldness as doing less. Because in doing less, I was able to get more clarity that allowed me to then go further. You know, so I'm curious to know about boldness. When you think about boldness, how have you been showing up as in boldness this year?
I think for me, it's all about being intentional and figuring out like what season I'm in, what I'm prioritizing. There are seasons where I'm really like nurturing my friendships or maybe prioritizing dating a bit more, or really locked into my business, like especially like in the winter and fall, like that is my lock-in season.
Really?
Like I am not outside. And in the summer, that's my time to be social. That's when I'm having a lot more events. That's when I'm focusing on connecting with people. And then also just figuring out, okay, there are all these opportunities. What really makes sense? And my mom has this saying, like, always focus on your North Star, like where you wanting to go, what's in the bigger picture. So if I know I want to get married one day, you know, I have to go on dates. Like I have to bake that into my schedule.
Your husband on the couch. Yeah.
If I know I have certain financial goals or personal finance goals, what are the steps I'm making in my career? If I'm making sacrifices in my business, okay, it's for that financial foundation so that when I am transitioning to full-time entrepreneurship, like I'm not scrambling, like I have a few sources of income. That way, if one side of the business is down, like I'm not completely screwed, like really thinking big picture, really thinking long-term. And then when it comes to my business as well, there are all these things I can be doing, but really spending time in my books. What has the highest ROI or return on investment? What is going to be that cash cow that's bringing me the most money, that's being my base, and really making sure I'm spending my time there. When I'm bringing on contractors or when I'm bringing on interns, where am I having them spend the time? So for example, social media is great, but where are my call to actions to drive people to my email newsletter? So I'm really nurturing that own audience. I put on a lot of events, but if I'm noticing I have a lot of repeat customers, like how am I moving to like a private membership community model so I can over deliver for my super fans? Like really just thinking more strategically.
Yeah, I love that. It's not about doing everything all at once. It's about being strategic with what you do and kind of like, making sure you're in alignment with your North Star, as your mom said, which I love. Now, my last question before we go into the dilemmas. I knew you were young, but when I found out you were only 25, it blew my mind. And it reminded me a lot of when I was younger, because I started my personal development journey when I was 21. And so by the time I was 25, I had a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and I was not speaking like a 25-year-old at all. But it's so impressive to see, all the things that you've achieved, like working for a big tech company in marketing, being in Forbes 30 under 30, starting your own business, like such incredible things. What advice would you give? Well, before you give any advice, what do you think were key things that played a part in your ability to be this wise and this locked in at 25? Because there's still so many people in their 20s who are navigating, who don't know who they are, who don't know where they want to go. What do you think you did differently that has allowed you to be so kind of focused and ambitious and actually achieving those goals at such a young age?
That is one of the best questions I've ever been asked. Yes.
Yes. Share the tea for the girlies.
I'll try to keep it in threes because I think it's easier for people to digest. So the first one is being really good at listening and observing. I'm naturally a horrible listener. I've had to train myself, and I'm okay with admitting like I'm not the best listener, but really taking the time to like listen to people's advice, like, those like old aunties and uncles, and they're like, oh, I wish I would have done this. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But sometimes there are some gems. And then observing, I think I'm a firstborn, and my younger sister's always like, sometimes I just need to like experience things and learn. And there is a time and place, but there are people who literally get online and say, these are the 10 mistakes I made in my business. Like now there are AI tools as well that like you can use to like literally audit your business and like find those flaws. So I think sometimes I really try to like take a step back and figure out, okay, like before I begin this, like 9 times out of 10, somebody has been in my shoes before. And I think we even talked about this like before I started doing in-person events, and you shared like your experiences, the highs and lows. And when you have that mentorship, when you have that guidance, when you have that community of people you can talk to, you can really save a lot of time and money in terms of business. Even in relationships, like when I'm dating, when I'm navigating that, like I have my aunt who I can call who's been in a very healthy relationship dynamic, and I'm like, hey, like, can you check me? Like, am I wrong when it comes to myself? And I think I've always been very forward thinking. Like if I take any personality test, it's like futuristic. And I kind of had this like season where I'm like, I feel like I'm going to need like a therapist to get through this season of transition. Like I knew there were going to be a lot of major shifts in my career. I was moving to a new state. I moved from the DC area to New York, and New York it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak. I knew I was in my 20s. I'm navigating dating. I'm navigating my career. I'm navigating business. It's quite overwhelming. And I knew that I needed someone to like ground me, like making sure that I had like a strong sense of self. And I think doing therapy during that pivotal time in my life really, really helped me like navigate this like scary time, this transition, and help me come out on top. I think another thing too that people like underestimate, and I think that's helped me be so successful in my 20s, is the power of relationships. And really like investing time in nurturing them and understanding people and learning how to read like body language and all of those things. Because I remember my mom used to say like, you protect your peace so much, like if a snake was right in front of you, you wouldn't even recognize it. And I was like, wow, it didn't have to drag me like that. But it's true, like being in different environments and not like self-isolating, learning how to talk to different people, navigate different situations, whether it be jealousy, whether it be envy, whether it be people who truly support you or people who really want to connect with you, and really learning to have that like spirit of discernment, I think is really, really important. And I think one of the things I had to learn or unlearn is my people pleasing tendencies, and really just go for like who's naturally connecting with you, like who naturally wants to be there for you, and who can you naturally pour into, like what feels authentic. Like there are so many people in the world, and like it's not always just like that one person who's gonna like open the door or like close that opportunity. And I had to learn like there's different ways to get to your North Star. Like it's just not always like one path. And I think that has also really helped.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing, and it's something like you preach a lot on your podcast, is like, don't neglect you. Like, I don't play when it comes to like my health. Like, I think it's better rather than being like, oh my gosh, I have to post every day. Like, it's okay to take a break for like 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes you need a reset to come back better. Like, sometimes you look at your stuff and you're like, this is nonsense. Yeah. Like, I'm just posting to post, or I'm doing all of these things in my business, but it's not generating the ROI it needs to. So, like, it's better that like I take a step back, or I wanted to really launch by this date, but it's like, you need 3 months. You need to secure more sponsors. You need to really think about what this looks like 6 months from now, a year from now. And I think taking a lot of like those steps in like my 20s has really just like helped me over time to build confidence in myself, but also just given me that really strong like foundation.
Yeah, so beautiful. And it ties so nicely to a huge realization that I had last week, which is I think a lot of people don't realize that the challenges they're experiencing is not because they aren't good enough, but it's because they don't have a strategy. And one thing I noticed in myself was when I was in my 20s, I was like, who do I want to become? And how am I going to get there? How am I going to become that person? And I'm competitive. I'm Aries. I like to win. So I was like, okay, what's my game plan to become the person I want to become? And same thing I'm hearing with you as well. It's like, what's my strategy, right? Okay, we're going to ask for help. We're going to get therapy. We're going to build community and connections, right? We're going to be open to exploring and experimentation. So whenever we're experiencing different challenges, it's not that we aren't good enough. It's that maybe my strategy isn't right. I need to lock in on the strategy, and that's going to get me to where I want to go. So there's like a fundamental belief, and I think this comes a lot from faith as well, you know, that I am already good enough as I am. I am already worthy, and my journey to becoming the person I want to be or achieving my goals is just about figuring things out, navigating, trying strategies. And it's not something I'm going to internalize as a fault with myself or something like that. And I think if everyone takes that mindset of, I just need to figure out a strategy, like life will be so much smoother and easier, you know? So yeah. Okay.
Time for the dilemmas.
Time for the dilemmas. You just finished talking about like relationships and connection and things like that. So the first question is from Audrey, and she says, I struggle to put myself out there socially, and this is affecting my ability to find love and connection. What advice do you have for me to be able to be more social?
I love this, especially as like someone who can kind of be the same. I think just taking the pressure off of yourself and like the situation. So I think a lot of times, and I can only speak from like my own experience, sometimes you're like, oh, like if I go on this date, like, is this the person? Is this the one? But sometimes a date is just to like connect and like experience and get to know people. And I think for myself, what I always do when I go on dates, I just always say like, this is just meeting a friend. Like this is just a foundation of like, do I like this person? Do I like their character? Do we connect? Like if I was stuck in an airport with this person, could we like, you know, just chit chat for like 2-4 hours? And then I then go like, oh, like, is there like that physical attraction as well? And then from there, it's like, okay, we had a great date. Let's see, are they consistent? Are they reliable? Are they intentional? Like, do they possess traits that, you know, I'd want in a short-term relationship or a long-term relationship? I also think it helps when you know where you want to go or like what season you're in. I think where we get really confused, especially as women, where it's just vibes. We don't know what season we're in, and that's when, you know, the head gets scrambled. Another thing I recommend doing, especially if you're just like, wow, like I am not prepared for this dating season is to do more like group gatherings. Like, I know we always joke and our parents are like, oh, like we met because so and so introduced me and we had this like social gathering and they came to my house and that's how I met my partner when I just came to this country and all of that. Like, I low-key think we should bring it back.
Bring back house parties.
Yeah, bring nobody has a house these days. But, you know, sometimes it's just like going to like a restaurant or like a bar or like a club. And like you might know like your friends would naturally connect or something like that. But, you know, just organically like meet people and stuff. And sometimes just like having like low stakes things where it's like, oh, I'm hosting this thing at my house. Like you should come. And then just seeing where it goes from there. But I think a lot of it is just taking that pressure off of this has to be like my forever person and just making it more so like, I want to see if this person is actually my friend. Because I think the best relationships,
100%.
the foundation is friendship.
Yes.
And I think once you like reprogram your mind, it will take a little bit of the pressure off.
Yeah, I love that because same with me. Like I dated my husband for 12 years and we were only able to do that because we were friends. You know, you never think, oh, I've been friends with this person for so many years. It's getting a bit claustrophobic. You know, no one thinks that. But when you're like, oh, dating is like, oh, I've been dating this person for 2 years and they haven't said anything or they haven't taken it to the next level. And it's like, relax, like focus on the friendship, you know? So I like that starting off with, can this person even be my friend?
And the character.
Right. And the character.
Heavy on the character.
You know, before we get to, you know, is this my forever person? And I also think when it comes to putting yourself out there socially, a lot of people have social anxiety and that comes from going into the future to think of the worst possible outcome. Right? Because you're going into that situation and you're like, what if I say something stupid? What if I say something awkward? What if, you know, they don't like me? And you're going into your future and you're just assuming all of the worst case scenarios are going to happen. That is going to make you feel stressed and nervous and anxious. And then that's going to affect how you show up with confidence. So you really want to make sure that before you're going into any social situations, that your mind is prepped and primed. You know, you're thinking about the positive outcomes instead of the negative outcomes. And you're really checking the limiting beliefs and the stories you're telling yourself that might be actually hindering you from enjoying being in that social environment, you know?
Yeah, I saw this quote the other day that says like all the time you spend like worrying about the worst outcome, you could also spend the same amount of time thinking about the best case scenario.
Yes.
And I always like tell myself that because, you know, being a content creator and going to these events and things, like I too like get nervous and then, you know, meeting new people and new environments and it's like, what might they think about me? And it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like the people who are meant for me, the people who will gravitate towards me will. And same with me. So I think that's also really helped me.
Yeah, for sure. You just have to realize that you are a good person and there will be people that will gel with you and there will be people that don't. And that's okay. And the people that don't gel with you, you never have to see them again. So, you know, what's the big deal? So, okay, great. The next question is from Nicole. And she says, I've been out of work since last year, September. I'm not finding any luck on the job search. And quite frankly, I've lost the passion for the field that I'm in. However, I have some money saved up and I really want to get a house. Not working has made me lose my confidence because I put all my identity in my job. How do I get my self-esteem back whilst finding a new job? I have a business venture, but I need money to fund it for other resources. I feel lost and hopeless. I also feel like a late bloomer. Looking back, I think I overthink more than I do. So, a couple of things in here. Let's start off with not working has made me lose my confidence because I put all my identity in my job.
I love this question.
Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I love this question because I think it's so relevant to what so many people are experiencing. I'm based in the US and right now our job market is tough. People have been unemployed for a year, 2 years even. And I think during like those seasons, it really helps to have community. And if you're faith oriented as well, to have like your faith where I think just like knowing being around the right people, they know that no matter what, like you have that support, like they love you regardless of whether you have this title or not. They're willing to support you through those seasons, having those people to be your connectors, to, you know, sit and do the resume reviews, sit and do the interview preps, sit and be those people to recommend you to others like in their networks for job opportunities. So if you don't already have that foundation, I would really prioritize having that professional network and building that out. And I think sometimes in those seasons when you're really locked in and it's frustrating and you're like nothing's working, I think sometimes we forget like we have so many skills, we have so much value inherently when we just really sit down and think of like what are the things people have always like complimented me about, what are the things that people have asked me about, and providing that sometimes for free or at a reduced rate just to get that experience. Because I think when you have something that you have to look forward to, that really helps. Or like when you're contributing to like a bigger picture or larger goal, I think that helps instill confidence. And I think sometimes we forget like we now have a gig economy. If you've lost your job, there were probably skills you were doing that people like outsource or they freelance. Like I would really encourage people to like leverage some of those like websites and stuff like that, and we can share that out after. But I think sometimes, like I said, it's like that third door approach. Like there's the traditional path, there's like the other path, but then there's that third door where you're creating your own lane. And I think it's really important in those seasons, especially with long-term unemployment, to start thinking about those strategies. Another thing is like having faith or having like a system that really grounds you and resets you, because I think during that time your mental health can be impacted. Of course, so for some people it's having a fitness routine like to help them stay consistent or help them stay grounded, or to just have something to keep consistent during that time, especially when like your normal schedule has been disrupted. For some people it's their faith. So like for me, I'm Christian, so my value doesn't come from what I do or like who I am. Like it comes from like serving God and trying to be like more like Christ. I think that's like really helped me and helped friends during like those seasons of uncertainty.
Definitely. And just to piggyback off that, I used to be someone who used to base my grades in school, like base my identity on my grades in school. And whenever you base your identity on external things, you are literally taking away your sense of personal power. Because if your identity is based on success or based on what other people think of you or based on what you can achieve, when you are achieving, you feel great, but when you're not, you feel terrible. Like I remember the first day I got a B, the first time in my life, and I cried in the shower. Like so dramatic. But at that time in my life, my worth was based on my grades. And so anything outside of an A was me feeling like a complete failure. Which sounds crazy now, but this was me as a teenager, right? And so it's the same thing with your work, right? You have to remove your identity from your job, from your family. And for me, it's based on who God says I am, and it has to be, you have to realize that your worth is intrinsic and no one can take your worth away. Whether it's having a job or not having a job, you are still worthy. And one of the things we always talk about at Confidence and Killing It is you matter simply because you exist, and so Nicole, right? If you're like Nicole, or if you're listening to this, start off with understanding that you matter simply because you exist. Whether you feel successful or you don't, you are still worthy. You still have worth, and your worth is intrinsic. So don't let not having a job make you feel less than, because you are not. It's a job. Losing a job is a temporary situation, right? Your worth is a permanent situation. So a temporary situation does not have the power to affect something that is permanent unless you allow it. So separate your identity from your job completely. And another thing that I loved you said was transferable skills. So I remember in the pandemic, when I had just launched, Confident and Killing It full time as a business, and lockdown happened and I lost all my business, my whole pipeline out the window. And all the people who promised to give me opportunities took them away. And there I was, right? I had a choice. Do I give up and wrap it up because all the people who said they were going to give me opportunities fell through? Or do I create my own opportunities? And that's what I did, right? And we have to look at, what are your transferable skills? What are your strengths? What are your passions? What are your values? What are your key skills that you have, and how can you use that to create your own opportunities? What do you have in your hands already available to you? And I think a lot of people wait for the perfect opportunity. They wait for someone to co-sign them, right? Because that's essentially what a job is somebody betting on you. But it's like, okay, when you're an entrepreneur, you bet on yourself. And just that shift in mentality of like, I don't need someone else to bet on me for me to validate myself. I can bet on myself because the skills and the talent are yours. And I always say to people, like, when you leave a job, you don't empty your brain and give it back to the employer. You give them the badge, you give them the laptop, but the knowledge and the expertise and the skill set is with you, right? And you take that to wherever you're going to next. Another thing she mentioned was, feeling like a late bloomer and overthinking more than actually taking action. Can you talk on like overthinking a bit and any strategies to stop overthinking and actually move from thinking to doing?
Oh, I love this. I am definitely an overthinking queen. What's actually really helped me, again, I always go back to the people. I've been really blessed to have amazing people who come into my life. And one of them actually came from someone I was saying, he really encouraged me to read the book, The Power of Now. And I was like, like kind of shady, but like, okay. But it actually really helped where like that book itself really just kind of gave me like strategies for how to like stop the overthinking like once it starts to happen and like really thinking about like, okay, is this productive right now? Like, how is this contributing to like your long-term effectiveness? And I think what the book was really great for is like explaining like the negative impacts of like overthinking. And again, if you go back to like your North Star and it's like you want to be here, all this time that you're spending overthinking is going to prevent you from actually like achieving your goal.
Yeah.
I also try to give myself like time limits for like ruminating on things. Just because like I think overthinking is kind of just a way of procrastinating.
Yeah.
So I might give myself sprint goals of like 30-day goals or like 90-day goals. And then just having like a work back schedule of how to get to that goal really, really does help me. So whether it's like a fitness goal, whether it's a business goal, like I'm launching this date. Okay, if you're launching this date, what are the things you need to do in month 1, 2, or 3? And then I'm really big on accountability buddies. So someone like you can tell like, hey, I want to achieve this goal. Maybe you have check-in meetings once a month or once a week. But that's what really helps me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I love with overthinking. I think sometimes it's definitely procrastination, and we're thinking like instead of just taking action, we're waiting and we're saying, "Oh, I'm just assessing the situation," but no, it's actually fear. Like call it what it is. It's procrastination. It's fear, and you just need to take action. And we have an episode called "Start Before You're Ready." And in that episode, it's exactly that. Like the feeling of readiness that you're waiting for is an illusion, and readiness comes after you begin, not before. And it's also understanding that confidence is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite. So the more action you take, the more confident you become. And it's the same thing with overthinking, right? It's so possible to think of so many different options and scenarios of how things are going to go. But until you start, there's no evidence. And evidence is the truth. Evidence is what you need to grow, to believe in yourself. So overthinking isn't going to give you evidence about yourself. You actually need to take action that gives you evidence and teaches you about yourself, and that gives you more confidence to keep going. The next question is from Caribbean Queen. And she says, I'm 10 years into my career and I'm working on transitioning into a leadership role. I'm still not confident in my own abilities. I'm terrified of public speaking and would not want that to delay my leadership opportunities. What can I do to level up my confidence, my public speaking, and be the boss babe that I know deep down inside I can be?
Oh, I love this. I actually had a friend who was really, really shy all throughout like undergrad. And she actually just got into like grad school. And she was telling me yesterday that she spoke up for the first time in front of everyone. And she was so proud of herself because she would have never done that during undergrad.
Yeah.
And one of the things she shared with me that kind of helped her overcome this shyness is watching every other person start to get like opportunities because like they spoke up, they put themselves out there. And even myself, like I do not naturally enjoy public speaking. It's not my passion. I've always done it because I knew it was something needed to get to the next level. Even my speaking engagements, I remember I literally updated my LinkedIn bio and I was like, speaker. Had I ever really spoken on a panel? No. When I started getting my first panels, I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do things before you're ready. And I think there's levels to it. So it might just be speaking up more in conversations with your friends rather than being like the listener and being on, the sidelines. It might be starting like a dinner series where you might bring together people like in your industry and you start to position yourself as a thought leader. It might be telling your friends or people like in your network that, I'm okay to lead this meeting. I'm okay to speak on this panel. Like I'm ready for that. And I think doing things over time is what builds that confidence and helps you overcome fear. And then I think too, if you know that naturally public speaking isn't your strength, but you might be someone who's really good on one-on-ones, like I'm definitely the same way, do that to like build credibility and build like influence. And, if you've done a lot of one-on-ones with people and then everyone in the room is someone you've done a one-on-one with, it's not going to feel as overwhelming. And I think too, when you choose like your first speaking engagements or your first meetings, do them in rooms where people were actually excited to hear you speak or be there.
Yeah.
And then it feels more like a conversation.
Yeah. I feel like there's nothing worse than being a hidden high achiever. You're doing all the hard work and nobody sees you.
Yeah.
Right. And when it comes to self-promotion and public speaking, I think about companies like Apple. I think about companies like McDonald's. They make money per second, right? But they still advertise. Why does Apple have a whole convention to show you their latest products, right? Why are we constantly seeing McDonald's billboards everywhere? Even though people already know about them, they are still intentional about speaking up. Right? Marketing that brands do is their version of public speaking, right? Advertising is brands' version of public speaking. So if some of the biggest brands in the world have to still advertise their products and their services, who are you, right, in your little world to just be like, oh no, it's fine, they'll find me? No, they won't. No, they won't. You have to show up. You have to show up online and speak. And I think being good at public speaking, because same with me, my first ever kind of public speaking gig was teaching a group of students how to be a good public speaker. Like the irony of it all, right? Yeah. But I was working as a youth leader, and my one of my team members in my youth group was like, oh, Tiwa, my friends at uni, I'm in the public speaking society, and I think you would be a great speaker to join us. And I was like, well, I know I want to be a good speaker, so I might as well start practicing becoming a good speaker. And this is why I always choose learning and leveling up over fake it till you make it. You don't have to fake being a good public speaker. What you're doing is simply practicing for the public speaker that you are becoming, right? So every opportunity I say yes to, because that is in the beginning, I said yes to because that was an opportunity to practice who I knew I wanted to become. So I love what you said, like small dinner parties, one-to-one, just challenge yourself to practice speaking. And I always say, like, if you can speak one-on-one, you can speak to many. It's the same process of speaking, but it's really the story that you're telling yourself about being in a big group versus being one-to-one. Right? So technique wise, if you can speak to one, you can speak to many. It's about what's your mindset. Are you believing that you deserve to be on this stage? Are you believing that your voice matters? Are you believing that you can take steps to become the person that you want to become? All of these things with public speaking, it starts with your mind first. And then once you've mastered the mindset, then it's like, okay, how can I be strategic about where I want to show up, So when you started your public speaking journey, were you proactive about it? Were you pitching yourself to certain communities or businesses, or was it kind of like the more you showed up, the more people thought of you and asked you to speak on panels?
I think for me, when it started, it was more about strategic positioning. So on social, I was very intentional about the type of content I created, and I knew what were going to be like my key speaking points. So on TikTok, on Instagram, I'm really like well known for a lot of my personal finance topics. I don't really complicate things. It's very beginner friendly, and I did that intentionally because I knew like financial empowerment, particularly amongst women, was something I was really passionate about.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be like the go-to person for that. Like when people thought about like personal finance and women, like I was always on the radar. So at first it starts with like brand partnerships, like anyone who's thinking about like Gen Z women, especially like in the US, like Caitlyn is in that like bubble of creators that like you're thinking of. And naturally they'll also like have panels as well. And then I'm making sure that, you know, even if it's just like my manager or someone there who can get like a short video clip. And I honestly need to be much better about that. I was actually speaking to a mentor who like works at a large talent agency. He's like, yes, you need to be like better with like your speaker reels. So that was one of them. I'm also a marketer, and I didn't want to just be a content creator. Like I also wanted to position myself as a thought leader. So it first started with like speaking on panels about influencer marketing and affiliate marketing. And then I again was like posting those things, sharing those recaps. Actually, one of those speaking opportunities turned into a board advising opportunity, which I was like, whoa, like I never expected that. And that again just comes from doing things scared, putting yourselves out there. And I always like to share that story in particular because I remember that speaking engagement actually wasn't paid. And usually I do paid speaking engagements, but something told me like, you know, you still need to practice. You still need to warm up. Like it's a trip to LA, do it. And I didn't realize the CMO was like vetting me with the CEO for that board advising opportunity position, which I think has definitely opened a lot of doors and will like pay dividends like years to come. So I always share that story because sometimes people think like, oh, like I should be paid for this. I should. And I think sometimes it's good to like build that foundation. Another thing that I did again with relationships, I was always connected to other connectors and community builders. So when they were hosting events, like they would put me on their panels and I would also put them on up my panels for like Miss Empower as well. So I think it's also really good to like build as like you climb and like collaborate with others who are especially on your level or like maybe a little bit above you or even a little bit below you. I think sometimes people need to like check the ego at the door and remember like just because you're here doesn't mean like someone won't be there like years from now. I've even seen it just being a creator and seeing how maybe like people treated me when I was smaller versus like larger.
Now,
and I even myself like try my best, and I get it because there's only so much time, so many opportunities, but I think really being like a true collaborator as well just will help elevate you and help you get to the next level and help you get those opportunities. And again, people really do talk. Like I am based in the US. Like I have so many people who have businesses in the UK and they're like, "Oh, we've heard you do these talks and like community gatherings." I said, "All the way from the UK?" Like how do you know about me? But that just like goes to show you where it's really about like putting yourself out there, doing it, connecting with people. And I think social is like one of the biggest equalizers as well, because if you have a clip that goes viral and like the right person sees it, like it doesn't matter if it gets 200 views. If the right person views it, like that could really change your life.
I love that. And especially about you don't know what other opportunities are going to come from just you showing up. You know, like you said, you got that board appointment and, you know, same with me, like my book deal came from somebody listening to my podcast and reaching out to me from one of the biggest publishers in the world. It's like, if you don't show up, then people can't see you. They can't find you when an opportunity arises. So just to kind of wrap up on, you know, tips for public speaking and leveling up your confidence, I want to share like 3 C's with you. So the first thing is clarity on who you are and what you want, right? So you don't just want to be going around speaking about everything and anything. You want to be very clear on what's my story, what are my main messages that I want to be strategically sharing with people. For me, it was confidence, mindset, entrepreneurship, you know, so think about what are the key defining moments in my life and am I clear on who I am and how I want to show up? Then the second part is the confidence to actually speak up and understand the power of your voice and really know that you deserve to be heard, right? Everybody can carve a space for themselves. And when you decide you are a thought leader, you are a thought leader. I hear so many times people are waiting for permission to share their stories. And I'm like, I can't give you permission to share your story. Like, your story belongs to you. You know, you have to show up and share your story. Like, you give yourself permission for that. And you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have a PhD to share your story. Your story belongs to you, and someone out there needs to hear your story. And then the last one is credibility, because you don't just want to show up and be visible, but with nothing to back it. So you want to make sure that the way you are speaking and positioning yourself, you're not just saying like, oh, hey, everyone, look at me. I'm great at this. I did that. That's not necessarily public speaking or being a thought leader. You want to look at what are the lessons you have learned from your life and how can you share that with other people. Like, I know, for example, the posts that do really well for you on LinkedIn is like your series on advice for women, young women in their 20s, right? Because that's you sharing your expertise and the life lessons that you've learned. And people begin to say, oh, wow, she knows a lot. You know, so if you are looking to go into public speaking and leveling up your confidence and leadership, you want to be very clear on who you are. You want to have the confidence to use your voice and know that your voice matters and take up space. And you want to show up with credibility, right? You don't want to just say, hey, everyone, look at me, I'm amazing. You want to share the lessons you have learned. You want to share wisdom. You want to share knowledge and information so that people can learn from you. Because when they learn from you, they trust you, and then they see you as a leader in your field. So, Caribbean Queen, I hope that helps. And I'm glad you're thinking about this, because the visibility that the opportunities that visibility brings can really be life-changing. And I think it's definitely a conversation we need to be having more. So, okay, so last question, which is from me, is you share so much advice with people. So I want to know, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten?
Oh, this is a good one. I feel like it's definitely advice I got from a director at my company, which at first I was like taken aback by, but it was actually quite helpful. She said, make people come to you. Because I was at the time like asking her to be like my mentor or sponsor. And she's like, girl, I'm busy, but make people come to you. If the right people are talking about you, like I'll know. And I was like, ooh, lots of pressure.
Oh, wow.
But that got me thinking about like building a personal brand, like whether it's at work, at your company, whether it's your business, like whether it's online. When you position yourself as the go-to person, when you're known for things, like whether it's the work you do, the type of person you are, I think that really opens doors. And it's true, like people will talk, people will advocate for you. Like, what are people saying about you when you're not in the room? And when people, go to your page, they look at your portfolio, like all of that is a part of like your personal brand and helps create opportunities and helps people come to you naturally. And you don't have to always be seeking out like those opportunities. I think it's really, really like impactful. Yeah. So I would definitely say like figure out, how am I going to make people come to me?
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. And you do that by showing up and being visible and using your voice. And that's what self-promotion is. It's an exchange of value and enthusiasm. Somebody needs what you have, but until you show up and build your personal brand, then they can't find you, you know? Yeah. So I love that advice. Let them come to you. And when they come to you, they're more ready as well to spend money. You don't have to go begging. And it's that kind of like attracting, that energy of attracting abundance and attracting the opportunities that you want. And for the past 5 years, I haven't really had to send outbound emails and chase opportunities. All the incredible opportunities that I've gotten have come to me simply by just being myself and just showing up. So amazing advice. Thank you so much for joining us on the Confident and Killing It podcast. It's been so great to have you and have you share your wisdom and help me answer some of these dilemmas. Can you just share where the audience can find you and all the great things?
Yes, you can find me at Caitlyn Kumi on all platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And then my women's community and digital media company, Miss Empower, also on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Some people have a hard time with the spelling, so it's MISSEMPOWHER. And I think we'll probably put it in the show notes as well.
Yes,
but thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And are you doing what's the next exciting thing that you're working on, if you can share?
I definitely can. The next thing is going to be Her Collective. That's going to be our private membership network and social club. There will be an online component, an in-person component. So definitely sign up for the wait list. I'm excited.
That sounds really cool. And is that mostly going to be based in New York for the in-person?
Yeah, a lot of our in-person events will be in New York, and then we'll be having some local chapters as well.
Nice. Okay. Well, cannot wait to find out more about that. And yes, I'll be sharing that with the audience. So thank you all so much for listening. That is your Confidence Hotline for the week. And until next time, stay confident and killing it.